The Indestructible Man. What can I say about this movie, that hasn't been said already? Well, probably a lot, because I haven't read anything that's been said about this movie already. Because that's just how I am. I don't read anything about any movie I ever do or see. Any reviews, none of that stuff. I don't even watch trailers for these movies. I just pick them. I'm like, that movie sounds interesting based on the name alone. Is it good? Is it bad? Who knows? But this movie was made in the 1950s and is sci-fi, horror, police, something like that. But there's not a lot of smoking in it. And back in the 50s, everybody smoked. Even the 5-year-olds would be at school in kindergarten smoking at their desk. They'd have their books and they'd have their ashtray where they could smoke. The teachers would be at the front of the classroom smoking. Everybody would be smoking. Uh, Hell, when I was a kid, just about every place still had smoking. That was in the 80s. And so there should be a lot more smoking in this movie. But maybe they hid the smoking. So this movie starts out with a cop narrating. He narrates the whole movie. He's the lead cop, Dick Chase. That sounds more like a porn name than it does for a regular movie. He is Lieutenant Dick Chase. That makes it sound even more like a porn name than a regular movie. So he's talking about Butcher Benton, whose lawyer is visiting him in jail before Butcher Benton gets the death penalty. And lawyer is trying to talk Benton and telling him where he hid the money. And Butcher Benton is like, I know you set me up. I know you hired these guys who turned state's evidence on me. And I'm going to kill all of you. And the lawyer is like, you're going to die tomorrow. You're not going to get any of us. Have fun. And then they all go for a smoke. No, they don't. But they probably did after the film stopped. They all everybody lit up a cigarette. But I know I'm stuck on smoking for some reason. I should do that during my videos. Just sit here and smoke. Though I'm trying to quit again. So then we go to the police station, where Lieutenant Dick Chase is told by the captain that since Butcher Benton is executed the next day, that the case is officially over and he is being reassigned to a new case. But Dick Chase is going to continue to focus on this case in his spare time because he knows the lawyer, Paul Lowe, did it, set the whole thing up with the two guys who turned state's evidence. So he goes to see Benton's girl, who works in a burlesque house. For those who don't know what a burlesque house is, it's where girls put on skimpy clothes and dance. It was kind of like a strip club, only they didn't take their clothes off. It was a boring strip club. That's what they had in the 50s. They didn't have nice things, they had boring things. You didn't have pornos, you kind of had to watch movies where the women are in swimsuits. You didn't have strip clubs, you had burlesque houses where the women wear clothes. You didn't have Playboy, you had, I don't know what you had instead of Playboy. Maybe swimsuit calendars? I don't know what men jacked off to in the 50s, honestly. Maybe they read their Bible and jacked off. I don't know. But anyways, he goes to the burlesque house. He talks to the girl, and he doesn't get anywhere. And so he leaves, and then Paul Lowe comes in and steals the map out of the girl's envelope, which Butcher Benton left, for the girl to get the money. But the girl went out to go do her little dance show. So then we see Butcher Benton taken to this mad scientist. There are always mad scientists in these movies. Always, all scientists are mad. Remember that. All scientists are mad. Though some are not actually mad, they're just angry. Like Dr. Gangrene. And he brings Butcher Benton back to life. And then Butcher Benton kills him and his assistant and takes off. But Butcher Benton can't talk anymore because his vocal cords are burnt from the electricity. But he has super strength and he's indestructible. So he starts flying around the city, doing good deeds. No, he doesn't. He heads from San Francisco to L.A. In a long drawn out thing that I'm not getting into. To get revenge on Lowe and these two guys who turned state's evidence on him. So then he goes and visits his girl, who is like, "Oh, you're alive. Well, I didn't understand the $50 you left me, but Paul Lowe was in here." So then he wants revenge even more on Paul Lowe because he took the map. So he goes to see the two guys who share an apartment who turned state's evidence on him, and he kills them by throwing them long ways, by throwing them off things. And he kills a bunch of cops along the way whose bullets don't even faze him. So then Paul Lowe goes to the police station along with Eva Martin. And Paul Lowe is so scared, he punches a cop so he can't get out. But Lieutenant Dick Chase, that is still a great name for any character, Lieutenant Dick Chase. I'm sorry, I'm going to argue that one of the greatest hero names in film history is Lieutenant Dick Chase. Because you can use it both as a normal name and as a porn name. Normally you can't do that. But anyways. But Lieutenant Dick Chase talks to the captain and he talks him into letting Paul Lowe out. And Paul Lowe refuses to go out and ends up confessing everything. So then they just have to find Butcher Benton, who they find, who thanks to Paul Lowe, they look in the sewers. And they've got everybody in the sewer, everybody on the police force in the sewers. And they're carrying guns, and they're carrying bazookas, and they've even got firemen carrying flamethrowers. And their name is Guy Montag. And they're in the sewers, and they find him. He's got the $60,000. And he gets shot by the bazooka. And he holds his stomach like this. Because that's what happens when you get shot by something in a 50s movie. You hold your stomach like this. Like, I got shot. And then you rip the bullet out and throw it at him. And then they hit him with flamethrower. But that doesn't burn any of his clothes somehow. I guess his clothes are also indestructible. But it's all burnt up. And then he runs up. And then he escapes the sewers. Into a power station. And he's running away. And he takes this tower. This crane tower. And he activates it. And he moves it in more into a power station where the crane hits one of those round power poles. I'm not even sure what they're called. It's not a transformer, it's something else. And he gets electrocuted and dies. So the moral of this story, if you're brought to life with electricity, don't touch anything electric. Just continue to live your life and save people in LA and be indestructible because you're going to live forever. So then at the end, Lieutenant Dick Chase gets 48 hours off, and he asks Eva Martin to marry him. And Eva Martin says yes, and that's the end of the story. Which, of course, people who've only known each other for 4 days should get married. That's how everybody should get married. The less time you actually know each other, the more often you should get married. You met today, let's get married tomorrow. That's how it works. So that's The Indestructible Man. Is it a good movie? Yeah, it's pretty entertaining. Is it a 50s movie? Yeah. It doesn't have enough smoking in it for a 50s movie, though. I want to see a 5-year-old smoke in this movie. Because you know the 5-year-olds were smoking in the 50s. But anyways, it's a good movie. Go watch it. It's on Prime and probably some other things. Join me next week for a wrestling show, which is why Six got fired from WCW. And for a Marvel movie next week. We are doing a Marvel movie next week. So see you then. And the Marvel movie is not Howard the Duck. See you then.